Sometimes history isn't always about what is left of the past. Sometimes it's about documenting the present so that the future can see what the past was like, if that makes any sense. Anyway, we're heading into the city of Calgary today to do a little present day documentation of some sites that are going to be disappearing soon, and we're bringing you along with us. And look at this, we have, well, you can't see her now because she just disappeared, but we have the whole crew with us today. Emily's here driving because I want to have the chance to do some more recording, and if I kind of poke my head through there, you might be able to see Mabel. So let's go. So what we're here to do today is to document the remaining bus traps in the city of Calgary. Now, I call them bus traps, but that is a bit of a misnomer because they're not actually designed to trap buses. They're designed to trap cars. Now, the City of Calgary and Calgary Transit officially call them bus-only crossings, but everyone in the city knows them as bus traps. So as you can gather from that explanation, it's pretty straightforward what these are. These are sections of roadway that are designed in such a way that a full-size Calgary Transit bus can drive over and pass through, but regular passenger vehicles cannot. And I'll show you how they accomplish that when we get out on site to the first one. Now, this is not a Calgary-only phenomenon. In doing some research for this video, I discovered that they do have similar contraptions used in different places in Canada, the US, and in Europe. So while it's not unique to Calgary, Calgary really embraced this as a method of traffic control and ran with it. So what spearheaded this project is an announcement that was made in the media last summer saying that the City of Calgary is moving forward with removing the remaining bus traps. I don't know how many there were at their peak, but at the time the news release came out, there were 7 still in operation. I believe that number has now dropped to 6, and our goal is to find all 6 and document them before they disappear completely. Along the way, we're going to visit a couple sites of former bus traps that have been rehabilitated and show you what they're using there today to replace the transit-only crossing. So as we make our way to our first stop on this trip, I figured I would mention the first bus trap in the city of Calgary. And it was located on the University of Calgary campus, and it was installed sometime in the early to mid 1970s. Now, as we always pride ourselves on our lack of prior research, I don't know exactly where on campus it was, nor exactly when it was installed, but all the sources tend to agree the U of C was the first location. And of course, typical City of Calgary traffic planning, for a city that has a reputation for being so car-centric, they sure like to tell you where you can't drive. No longer allowed to make a left turn there, which is where we need to go. So now there's going to be a bit of a major detour. Isn't it funny how, through their efforts to control traffic, oftentimes the city ends up creating more traffic by making people go out of their way to get to where they need to be. All right, with our detour complete, we now can finally enter into the community of North Haven. So I picked this bus trap as our first stop for a very specific reason, and that's because I believe, based on my 15 minutes of research, this is the oldest of the remaining bus traps that is still in use today. So here we get our first look at how this system works. And basically, as it implies, there's a giant pit in the road with these rollers that are spaced out a certain distance apart, so that essentially any cars that come along here will find their wheels into the pit, And because of the rollers, they're not able to reverse or drive themselves out. So of course, buses having a wider, not a wheelbase, because that's usually front to back, but having a wider stance of their wheels are able to pass by on either side of the pit and continue their trip. So today, this community here to the north is known as Upper North Haven, and the community to the south is just North Haven. I found an article online at the time they were getting ready to implement this bus trap, and it caused a lot of controversy because this community, which is today Upper North Haven, was still in the planning stages in the mid-1970s. At that time, it was known as West Thorncliffe. And the concern was for all of these houses here along Norseman Road. Because, thanks to the bus trap, all the houses along this stretch of the block, if they want to go from their front yard to their backyard with their vehicle, it involved a detour of almost 3 miles. So that really highlights one of the problems with these bus traps, and that is they're actually very inconvenient for the people who live in the neighborhoods. I mean, the biggest problem, though, is that even back in the 1970s, back in the era before cell phones, distracted driving was still an issue. And believe it or not, despite the giant signs, you would still find people who would ignore it and drive their car straight into the pit. And of course, the downside of that, in addition to the damage done to the vehicles, is that once you have a car stuck in this pit, that car remains stuck in the pit until you can get a tow truck here to pull them out. So that means the transit crossing is then effectively blocked until such time as the car can get out, resulting in major delays.
So Dan found an article that was the impetus of this video that says, they're going to close all the bus traps in Calgary. And he just said it kind of casually, and I'm like, whoa, wait, what is that? Bus trap, what is that? And he's like, well, transit only lanes, they put this pit in there so that cars can't get through it, said it matter-of-factly. And I'm like, that's insane. I have never heard of this. So when he mentioned that we were going to do the video and go find them, I was like, yes, I have to see this with my own eyes. Don't fall in.
Just to prove that when I call them spinners, they actually do spin.
I've never seen one of these before. It is insane. Like, diabolical, crazy. I honestly had no idea. Dan told me about these things and I didn't really know what to expect. And now that I see it, I can't wrap my head around it. It's insane.
Second stop, we've made our way up here towards Laycock Park at what for passenger vehicles is the end of 4th Street Northeast, because yes, another bus trap. Hey, at least the cool thing is it managed to catch a bus going through one here, even though I didn't look very happy about it. So this one here is an interesting little bit of a hybrid in that it has the bus trap on one lane going one direction, but there is a second lane here which is blocked by a gate. Now my theory, and it's purely a theory, is that the gate is there for a specific reason. And that reason has to do with another one of the core purposes for removing these, and that is more and more bus routes in the city are using small van-like shuttle buses versus the full-size buses. And the regular van-sized shuttle buses can't traverse these bus traps. So as they want to use smaller and more efficient vehicles, they need to come up with different solutions. So I suspect that's why this one does have the option of having a gate there as well. Or, as Emily just pointed out, given that it's not an automatic gate, there's also a possibility that that one's just there for emergency vehicle access. Okay, off here at our next stop. This one actually makes sense. So some of the bus traps really appear to have no function other than to inconvenience drivers. This one, like I said, makes sense. You have this light industrial area here, and then separated from it by the bus trap, you actually have a residential neighborhood. So it makes perfect sense why they would want to allow transit to pass through here, but not have this turn into a major, throughway for people commuting to jobs here in the industrial area. And look at this, there's a bus coming. We'll actually get to capture the bus with me being prepared for it this time. So this gives you a perfect example of how the buses are wide enough to pass over, whereas cars would get trapped. But I don't know if this used to have a gate or what this electrical box is doing here, but it doesn't look like it's a new installation by any means. And this trap is mostly trapping water and litter at the moment. From the parking lot of Atlas Trailer Coach Products, not a sponsor, we're going to head off to our next location. Speaking of sponsors, this week's video is brought to you by whatever ads YouTube chooses to run right around here. So just trying to locate our next one here on the map. Despite not knowing exact locations, these have not been really hard to find, mainly because when you look at a map, they're quite obvious where they are, because it looks like a road should carry through an area, and it just doesn't. This is a far cry, with modern mapping technology compared to when I first moved to the city, and I got royally screwed by bus traps many times while trying to navigate around just using paper maps. And now at our next location, I think this is number 5 on our list. We're by the Village Square Leisure Center. And here is another one of the bus traps. Now, I suppose the reason for this one is we do have a high school right there. We have the leisure center over there. And so this road had the potential to become a very major thoroughfare. And I think really the goal of this one was to force that cross traffic north out onto 32nd Avenue and keep this area clear. And as you just saw there, another bus passed through. So I think we're actually 5 for 5 in terms of seeing buses cross on the bus traps. That's funny because I didn't think we would see very many at all today, but 5 for 5 is not bad. I haven't caught them all on video, and the very first one we were at, I kind of tripped on the fence as I dove to get out of the way of it because I was filming as it came down the road. So glad we didn't capture that, although it would have made a great YouTube short. So as we've gone along and we've talked about the history, we've talked about the reasons for removal, there's not really much to say. These are going to get shorter and shorter here as we go to 6 and 7 because, it's a hole in the road. What more can I possibly say about it that hasn't been covered already? One of the other sights we have seen at almost every one of these bus traps have been cars approaching and then being forced to make a U-turn and find another route, which I guess just goes to prove that even in today's world, with our modern technology for navigation and things, these things still cause headaches for drivers. Right. Second last one for us to visit on today's little excursion. We are on Center Street here in Calgary, coming up to the, like I said, second last of our bus traps we need to see and document. And this one here has both the trap and the gate, and you can see the gate is actually open right now, and the only thing actually keeping people from coming through is the sign that says Calgary Transit buses and authorized vehicles only. It's a good look there. Trap on the far side, gate on this side. And you can see why the gate is open. Clearly this route is running those smaller transit shuttle buses that we were talking about. And so clearly it would not fit over the bus trap. Now, while I was standing here, I did see a private vehicle go through the open gate. And I believe, if you look closely, I think that right there may actually be a camera that is recording license plates of people who go through the gate that are not authorized. So if I was that fella, I would be expecting a ticket in the mail at some point here in the next few weeks. You know, it kind of got me thinking when I saw him drive through there, with the number of people that have over the years gone through the bus traps, and I have to wonder how many of them, it's not that they weren't paying attention, it's just that the idea is so absurd, they believed it couldn't possibly be real. Like, this must be some sort of crazy joke that the city would not intentionally place giant pits in the middle of the road with no barricade to keep me from driving into them. That's partly, I think, what the problem has been over the last 50 years of bus traps in the city of Calgary. All right, back in the car and making our way to our final one of the active transit-only lanes. Now this one is interesting because it's in a much newer community than the other ones we have visited so far. And as well, this one didn't really appear on any lists that I saw of the remaining active bus traps.
Meters, turn right onto Berkshire Road Northwest.
Thank you, Google. Did not appear on any of the lists of the active bus traps. So on one of the articles about the bus traps being removed, there was a map that showed the general locations of all the remaining bus traps. And there was one in the far northwest part of the city that didn't really appear on any lists. And so I browsed around on Google Maps with the aerial or satellite view, and I found on the map what looks like a bus trap. Now, I don't know if the reason it didn't show up on the lists is because it's already been remediated and removed or not, but we're going to head over there since it's on our way home anyway and see if there's still one more active bus trap to visit. Okay, I thought there was actually someone sitting in that seat while they were changing the tire on the road. And, you know, that's a lesson, folks. Keep some sort of reflective triangle or things in your vehicle for those exact situations so you don't need to use the rear seat out of your van. So, you know, 2 out of 10 for being prepared, 10 out of 10 for creativity, though. All right, we're on the final approach to what might be our final active bus trap to visit. I see a cul-de-sac sign up ahead, which indicates to me this road does not go through. So let's see what we see. I don't see the giant bus trap signs. Oh, it's coming into view. Do not enter.
Yeah. What do you know?
And now I got the actual microphone on. It might work better. And yes, here we are. This is in the community of Rocky Ridge, here in the relatively far northwest Calgary. We found One more active bus trap. I'm just going to quickly hop out and get a photo. I've been trying to get photos at all of these to document them. Mabel is not impressed that she's not coming with me. So there we are. This one, like I said, seems to be quite a bit newer. Has a good combination with the bus trap on the one side and then a gate here, presumably for emergency services, on the other side. As I trip over some metal there. Unlike that one that we visited up in the northeast, the drain on this one is still working. And apparently someone didn't like these bollards and decided to drive over top of them, hence why there's the big concrete blocks there now. But there you go. I think, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, that's all the active bus traps left in the city of Calgary. So now that we've seen all the active ones that are still in existence, again, if I'm wrong and you know of others, correct me. Let's go take a look at a couple that have since been decommissioned and remediated and are no longer in use as traps. Okay, so we have made it to the site of one of the decommissioned transit-only bus traps. This one here was listed in some of the old articles I found as being at Sarcee Trail and 56th Avenue Northwest. Well, as you're about to see here, 56th Avenue really isn't much anymore. So basically this was a transit-only crossing that went from Varsity Estates through to the community of Silver Springs. This alignment here was 56th Avenue. Now I believe it doesn't even have a name when you look at it on the maps. And it is now an emergency vehicle only access. So right up here where this gate is where the old bus trap would have been, long since replaced. I also suspect that this road was wider at that time, and a lot of it was probably, when it was decommissioned, it was probably converted into this narrow emergency road and the pedestrian pathway. All right, we are going to check out the final stop on this trip. We are in the community of Dalhousie, and just across Sarcee Trail is the community of Ranchlands, but you can't get there from here thanks to a transit-only crossing. This is another decommissioned transit-only crossing. Well, it's still a transit-only crossing, but it's a decommissioned bus trap. So this one here uses gates as well. However, this one's not limited to just emergency vehicles. This one also allows for transit crossings. I suspect, and I have nothing to verify this, that this is probably controlled through RFID based on the little sensors up there. So basically, bus approaches, and whether it's automated through RFID cameras or operated by a garage door opener type control inside the bus, essentially the gate goes up, transit can go through, no one else can. So if we get in here a little bit, you can see the bollards there, or the bollards that were there to prevent people from going around the trap. And there are still remnants of the bus trap here in the pavement. So this is where the pit would have been that trapped all the cars. And that seems like a perfect place to wrap up the video at a decommissioned bus trap. a unique phenomenon that is not long for this world. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video.